Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Money Moves with Michelle France. Listen in as Alexa and I continue our conversation about income taxes. Then, I just talked about all the things that the government provides for its citizens. That's your federal tax, that's the federal government. You got to pay that too. So you got to contribute towards that. The tax rates right now are between 10 and 37%, and that depends on your income. So depending on your income, an additional 10 to 37% is going towards paying your federal tax bill for all those things I mentioned. And then you live in a state. That state have expenses. A lot of their budget kind of mirrors the federal budget, but on a smaller scale. And you have to pay state taxes. Now, there are 8 states that do not charge taxes at all. And then there's 1 state that only charges taxes on like investment income. But all the other states, including Georgia, you have to pay state income tax. I think the highest state is California at 13.3%. And then Pennsylvania has a flat tax at like 3.07 or 3.03%. What I'm saying is from your check, it's mandatory that FICA, 8%, federal and state comes out of your check. And yeah, that's quite a bit of your check, of your money goes to that. Now, one more thing. Let's say I don't work for someone and I have my own business. When I told you that you have to pay FICA of 7.65%, that's your portion. What you don't know, or you may not know, is that whoever you worked for, they are also contributing 7.65% on your behalf. So they're paying you your salary, and they're also paying another 7.65 for you. When you have your own business, there's no one to pay that. So you have to pay 15.3%, and that's called self-employment tax. So even if you have your own business, you still have to contribute to FICA, and you still have to do federal taxes, and you still have to do state on the profit of your business.
Is there any way that I can pay less taxes?
Yes. There's always a way you can do less, but you got to know the ins and the outs of the taxation system. Most people do not. There are books you can read. Like I said, there's a booklet that comes out every year that breaks down on this line, you can write this off. This is this, and it'll explain to you. There's a Schedule A, which are itemized deductions, things that you can deduct, and they go into detail. Is this? Like you can deduct interest off of, if you bought a home and you're paying your mortgage, which is a bill because you borrowed the money to buy the home, and there's interest on that payment. You can write that off. But you can also write off interest on a vacation home or a second home. There's so many other things. And so there's information that explains what you can write off. So can you save? Yes, but you have to know the ins and outs. What are the credits that are out there? What are the deductions? What's tax deductible? What is not? What is, for example, if someone died and left you some life insurance money, that's tax-free. There's some things that are taxed. So you have to know the ins and outs. Most people are not knowledgeable, or they're scared, or they don't want to learn about it. So they pay knowledgeable people to give them the information. However, the IRS encourages us to use the law and to pay only what you're supposed to pay. And that's me. I'm only trying to pay the exact amount I'm supposed to pay and not a dime more. So I'm going to write off everything that I know that I can. And I want to scour for all kinds of deductions. And the IRS encourages us to legally write those things off. But one more thing, and I was on my way here today, someone said to me, I hope you're going to talk about, there are things we can write off. The biggest thing that you can do to help save on taxes is not wait till April 15th when taxes are due to ask your tax preparer, what can I write off? During the year, because what happens is when we do our taxes in April, it's for the previous year. So if I tell you, oh, Alexa, you say, oh, you can't write that off because that was last year and it's over with. The biggest thing you can do is get information in the year that you're living in so that you can do certain things or not do certain things to make your bill better. So information, it's all about the info. And so if you don't know it, you need to pay someone or talk to someone or figure it out. But the more information you know is, yes, child, there's a lot of stuff you can write off to decrease that bill.
Okay. So getting a refund check, it's a good thing, right?
Let's talk about refunds. I'm not a fan of large refunds. Okay. Let me explain to you why. So let's say, Alexa, that you had a cell phone bill and the bill was $100 a month. Would you send T-Mobile $200 a month?
Of course not.
Why?
Because I don't need to.
Why?
Because they're only asking for 100.
See, girl,
You right now.
I already know. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the bill is $100. There's no way I'm gonna send them $200 a month because I'm sending them $100 too much.
Right.
And then, okay, so then a year later, T-Mobile says, "Oh, Michelle, here's your $1,200 because you paid us $100 too much." And I'm like, "Ooh, girl, I just made." Does that make sense to you?
No.
Like, is that something I should be excited about, getting my $1,200 back?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Because you're giving back the money that I already had.
Girl, you got that.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Most of us, when we're getting refunds, we've overpaid the government. We gave the government $100 too much, or $200. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the year, they give it back to us, and we're like, oops, I got a refund. No, you just overpaid a bill.
Right.
I'm not a fan of doing that because the government takes their time to give me my money back. And why would I give you money that I didn't need to give you and then have to wait around for whenever you decide to give me my money back?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us are struggling during the year, can't afford our lives, and we're giving out extra money that we're going to get back to say, ooh. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am not a fan of refunds if it's because I overpaid a bill. Now, there are times that there's new tax credits or there's some type of stimulus, and so you might get more than you expected. But to just give extra money to get it back and say, to me, that makes absolutely no sense at all. Now, in April, there's this form 1040 that we have to complete. And on that form, you put down how much income you make, blah, 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 blah. At the end, you either pay them too much. And how do you pay them too much? Because remember I said at your job, they're going to take out federal taxes, but you determine how much they take out. And so if you checked wrong boxes and put wrong numbers down, then they're going to take out based on your checking and your numbers. Or if you put other numbers down, you may not have had enough taxes come out, and so you may owe. I do not encourage you to owe, and I don't encourage you to owe more than $1,000 because a lot of times they send you a penalty because ding, 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 ding. They want their money throughout the year so they can take care of all these services for us. So I say pay your bill, but just not overpay it. Who does that? You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Who does that? Yeah.
So my last question
Ooh.
is income tax the only kind of tax out there?
Girl, there are taxes, and America taxes you quite a bit.
That's crazy.
There's income tax we just talked about. There's property taxes. If you own your own home, that depending on the value of your home, and your value changes, market value, it changes throughout the year, they charge you a tax on the value of your home. That tax goes to your county and or city, because there are some people who pay county property taxes and city property taxes. That's a tax if you own your own home. There's sales tax. That's a tax on goods. So this little outfit you're wearing, we went to a store, we saw it, it was for $30. You go to the register, they add sales tax. That's done by the county you live in. Each county has a different tax. And so there you go. When you buy some retail goods, sales tax. And in Georgia, they even tax food. Some things, they put sales tax on food. Not all states do that, but that's sales tax. Okay. There's estate taxes. When a person dies, depending on the size of their estate, and your estate is the assets that you own throughout your life, depending on your assets, a tax is assessed on that. There's excise tax. That's a special tax on certain goods. Sometimes some people call it a sin tax because there's certain things that the government doesn't want you to really do. They'll give you this extra tax, like tobacco products has the tax, alcohol, but also hotels, firearms. There's a whole bunch of different things. I think tanning, indoor tanning, et cetera, the airlines. These are excise taxes. Okay. Then there's the opposite is luxury tax on things that are considered not necessary or luxurious. So like certain expensive cars and yachts and planes, they have an additional tax. And then, as I'm trying to tell you, there's taxes within income tax, there's other taxes. Alternative minimum tax, net investment tax, capital gain taxes, self-employment taxes, Okay,
That's a lot.
Sweetie pie, there are a lot of taxes. And this is why it's important to be knowledgeable so that you can see, is there anything I can do to help mitigate some of this or lessen some of this? Property taxes, I got to pay it if I own a home, but there's things I can do to make sure they're not assessing my house too high. They can say my house is worth $2 trillion. And so now, boom, you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So understanding the different taxes can help you maybe become more knowledgeable and do different things. I wanted to mention this too, because I forgot. Our budget in 2023, the government's budget is about $58 trillion. I'm just trying to explain to you how large this is, all the expenses that has to happen to us Americans, and why income taxes are important. And that's why filling out that form is important, because the government needs the money from us, from our income, to pay these things. And if they don't think you're being honest, or they're thinking something looks a little, they will audit you. And audit just means they're going to say, Alexa, you said blah, 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 blah. Did you? That's why it's important to complete it correctly, to be honest. But there's so many things in the tax law that you can use to reduce your bill and do it the right way. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I said one more thing wrong. Our budget, I'm sorry, because I want to clear this up. Our budget, the country's budget, this year is 5.8, not 58. It's $5.8 trillion. And so that's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And the only place the government gets its money is from us. And so it taxes our income, and it's very important that we're on top of that. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of information, and I'm definitely going to have to know this as I'm becoming an adult. So thank you, Mommy, for this lesson on income tax.
You are welcome, Alexa. And not only because you're becoming an adult, but as you're growing, period, because you work, they're going to start taking this stuff out. You're like, what is this? I thought I was going to get a bigger check. Yeah. In America, there's a lot of taxes, and you got to know about it. And not just you, all of us, because I think sometimes even adults, we don't quite know this stuff ourselves. We just know something we have to do, but we don't understand why, how, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's one of the reasons we have this Kingdom Money Moves, because I want to talk about things, financial things, so that we have a better understanding, because I believe that knowledge is power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there are topics I would like to cover, like, for example, saving versus investing. So when I say you need to save money, are you saving to save, or are you saving to invest? It's different. I want to talk about interest, because I say there's two sides to interest. There's a good side and a bad side. And you need to understand that. Interest is not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good. Okay. Net worth versus income. Oh my goodness. Having an income of $100,000 is totally different than having a net worth of 100. Two different things. We need to understand that. How to improve your credit. You know, there are all these companies out here that says, give us $2,000, $3,000, we'll correct your credit. And there's things you can do without paying a dime to improve your credit. Let's talk about those things. Let's talk about, at what point should I retire, or can I retire comfortably? It's not just because I'm now 62 or 67 or 71 or 75. It's not an age. It's an amount. How do I know when I'm at the point where I can retire comfortably? We're going to talk about that. I love this one. And people, it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true. I want to talk about how givers get. Yeah, it's for real though. Givers actually get. So we're going to talk about that. I want to talk about why should you create a budget and how to create a budget. I know for me personally, without a budget, I could not survive. My budget tells me exactly what to do. I don't have to think twice. Mommy, can we go? Whatever you want to ask me for. What does the budget say? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Why should you budget and how to budget? I want to talk about the stock market. African Americans, we're out of all the races, we do not contribute much into the stock market because we don't know. We're afraid. And so, girl, we're going to talk about the stock market. I'm going to call it Stock Market 101. I might do a couple of
101.
101. We might do 201 later, but we'll talk about that. I want to talk about some of the top insurances that you really, really should have. I want to talk about OPM and debt. OPM stands for other people's money. There are people that think that it's great to use other people's money to get things. And I'm going to talk about OPM and debt. Girl, I got so many topics. I can talk forever, because when you look in the Bible, most of the things in the Bible are talking about finances or possessions, etc. Because God knows that this is what we live with. There's things that impact our lives that are financial in nature. So he wants us to be wise, because we are kingdom children. I'm the child of the king, and the king has put things in my possession. He's brought things to me, for me. And so what I'm saying is we need to know what these things are and how to better utilize the things that have been put in our hands. Because if we are faithful in a few, God's going to hook us up with a lot more. Be faithful in a little, and God will just expand our territory. So that's Kingdom Money Moves. That's income taxes. That's just a little bit to touch the surface. And so now let's do more to find out more about our income taxes. Maybe instead of talking to your tax preparer, if you pay someone to do your taxes once a year to say, can you do my taxes? Talk to them throughout the year to say, what's going on in the tax world? What's changed and how can it impact my life? Or if you're someone that uses software and you try to do your own taxes, perhaps not just fill out the blanks, because actually the software is only going to spit out what you put in. Do some research, ask some questions, because God gave us resources. It's for us to use those resources and gain the knowledge so we can use them to best help ourselves. Thank you, Miss Alexa France, for joining me today.
You're welcome.
You're absolutely the apple of my eye. And you know I say this all the time, but when Alexa is sweet, there is absolutely nothing sweeter. And I am honored to have you. Don't get me all teary as my daughter. I love you more than life itself, Alexa.
I love you.
Thanks for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching Kingdom Money Moves. And until next time, we'll see you later.